So we're starting the recording. This is the overview, the intro slide. And maybe, Dr. Meredith, this would be a good time just for you to highlight anything that you saw in the chat about maybe what some of the really great things are that are going on in garden programming this year.
Yeah, I love seeing what everybody's up to and all the different schools we have representatives from here. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of things about collaboration and community and having community engagement within your schools. I see a number of schools that are excited to get their gardens started. So maybe have gardens that have been inactive or are new gardens that are going to be gearing up and getting rolling. So that's exciting to see. See lots of harvesting happening, kids excited to eat produce and eat things from the garden, and a few places that have long-standing garden programs that are continuing to be successful. So great work, everybody. We're excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting those. And it sounds like we've got a group with a lot of varied experience and in different spots. So that's helpful for me to know as a presenter too. So Michelle, if you can go on to the next slide. We just also wanted to introduce ourselves as a garden team. We are currently a team of 4. And I am Julie Hunnefeld. I'm the school garden specialist here. I come to this role with a variety of experience. I was a school librarian within the CPS system for about 10 years. So know schools relatively well, and I was in a K-8 school, so worked with a wide range of students. Then worked for a while in a nonprofit that did garden programming with kids. And most recently was at the Park District, where I was running a program, a garden program where kids in the parks were gardening. So I am very excited to be in this role. I'm happy to share some of my experience with you today. And then how about Dr. Meredith can introduce herself next?
Hi, I'm Dr. Meredith Senzer. I'm a school garden program coordinator with the school garden team. My background is in research and specifically in insects. So I am an entomologist, and I have many years of research experience on plant-insect interactions. So all those pollinator questions and pest questions and just surprise bugs, that's what I'm here for. And you may have seen some of my emails going out with information about different garden visitors. That's me.
Okay, and then Michelle.
I'll introduce Chelsea really quickly. Chelsea Johnson is our team admin. So if you've seen emails from her about things that are going on, or just to schedule meetings or site visits with the team, that's Chelsea Johnson. And she does all of the admin work for our team. She could not make it today. This is her off day, but she is our admin. And I am Michelle Newman Brooks. I'm the manager of school gardens. I've been at CPS now for 3 years. Prior to that, I was the director of urban agriculture for the city of Chicago. And I've been doing this work a little over 10 years or so. Those who don't know me, I'm excited to meet you. And those who do know me, I'm sorry.
Right, so this is our team. As you can see, we're small but mighty. We're excited to be at CPS, and we're working very hard to try to, as efficiently as possible, serve all 600 plus schools. So this is one way that we do it so that we can see many of you at one time. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide. And I will start highlighting. We just wanted to show some of the things that we do here. One that we hope we are all familiar with is the Eat What You Grow training. If you're not familiar with it, you should be. It is on Safe Schools, and everybody there should be one person at a minimum in each school building that is Eat What You Grow certified. So please make sure that you go ahead and do this. It is something that is part of the checklist, the Healthy CPS checklist. So your principals in particular would love to check that box. So any school that is growing anything should be needs to be Eat What You Grow certified. So please go ahead and do that. We also have various resources on our website. So it's cps.edu/gardens. There's a number of toolkits there. And those are all live links. So we update those as best practice changes, as there's new guidelines. So whenever you are looking for information about gardens, please go to that site so that you can see the most up-to-date information. We also have a number of one-pagers that we send out. Not all of those are up on the site. At least most of them are really not up on the site. But if you email us with questions and we have some written information for you, we will often send you a one-pager. There's a couple new things that are up there. We've got the IPM guide. Dr. Meredith, did you want to mention a little bit about that tool?
Oh, sure. So our integrated pest management guide just went live. And it's basically if you're having a problem with a pest in your garden, or if you see something and you're not sure if it's a pest in your garden, this is a place where you can go look for common garden pests. So the focus is on insects because that's what I am specialized on, and that is what most of the pests in our gardens are. But we also talk about other problem visitors in the garden, like rodents, rabbits. If you have diseases, there's also a section on common diseases. And if you look in there and you're not seeing what the problem in your garden is, please feel free to email us because we're always updating these if we get more information. And then it'll have suggestions for how to deal with it and how to, basically how to manage pests in your garden. Recognizing that we are pesticide-free organic gardens at CPS schools.
Okay, thank you very much. There is another resource that's forthcoming, which will be about chickens. And so some chicken keeping guidelines. So Michelle's been working really hard on that because we have a number of schools who have chickens on site, and we want to give some guidelines about that as well. So also on our website is the link to our seed library. We do provide free seeds to schools, and we have a lot of seeds that we provide. So make sure that if you need seeds, that you go there and we will get that to you through CPS mail. We also do a farm to school program. Every year, we're trying to, like with our food service providers, provide farm to school programming. We select about 15 to 20 schools where we either are doing field trips or on-site visits where we really want to highlight and connect kids to the food system. So this could be to a particular farm or a food processor. Or just something where we're highlighting how that food actually gets from the farm to their plate and anything in between. So we will always send out like an interest form. And then between us and our food service providers, we select schools that for a variety of reasons, but in general, we want to spread out some of these programs across the district. And then we are working hard to be able to see that, to make it more visible to schools so that if they want to provide similar kind of programming, you've got some models of ways of doing that. Next, we have technical assistance. So we do provide one-on-one support to schools as needed. Please make sure that you reach out to us. We've got the garden team at cps.edu email address, so you can reach out if you need anything. And then we work in a variety of ways. We might answer questions just over email. We might schedule a virtual appointment. Sometimes we come out. We definitely want to hear about if you are starting a new garden or if you are expanding a current garden. We need to hear about that because we have to give you approval in order to do that. And we help. So please reach out to us when you're in that situation. And then the last one is the Garden Educator Cohort. So Michelle, if you can go to the next slide. I'm just going to do a little read aloud for you.
Before I go to the next slide, I just want to highlight one thing that you mentioned about garden construction. Just to reiterate what Julie is saying is if you are excited or interested in adding or expanding your garden, please reach out to CPS, not to CPS, still yes, CPS, but to the garden team first, because that does need to be approved by both our team and facilities. And so we really want to push that so that schools are not wasting money or time installing a garden that then we have to come and have you remove for compliance reasons. So please, just to avoid that, let's always make sure we do that first so that we can make sure that you're spending your time and your monies wisely. Also, if you know that your school, and this is construction season planning time, but if you know that your school's going to have construction anywhere on site and you already have a garden on your campus, please, we're working with facilities to notify us. They are still kind of working out those kinks, but I'd love to know that ahead of time, because if your garden needs to be protected from construction debris, I need to make sure that facilities does that. So if you're aware of any construction happening on your site, or please tell your colleagues at other schools, notify our team so that we can make sure that your garden is protected from construction debris during construction time. When you're usually out of the building, that's when our team kicks in and makes sure that your gardens are protected. I just wanted to throw that in. Sorry, Julie, I failed to mention that to you when you were planning. So I'll go to the next slide.
You're right. I appreciate that. That's all helpful information. Okay, so this is my read aloud. So so you all are clear about our Garden Educator Cohort, that this is a space that facilitates peer-to-peer learning, district-wide communication, and sharing of best practices regarding school garden education. As a CPS district-led initiative, this group is primarily for teachers, school staff, and community members who lead and support school garden programs. Out of 600 plus CPS schools, about 400 schools currently have gardens, both edible and ornamental. This cohort offers an opportunity for schools to network with each other, and in doing so, strengthen CPS garden programming as a whole. This cohort includes monthly gatherings, like we're doing right now, Google group participation, and access to partner expertise. So just mention about the Google group participation. You all are members. Probably all of you are members of our Google group. That's how you got the information about this meeting. Our Google group has been rather quiet lately, but I want to encourage everybody just to send messages out through that group. There's a lot of expertise within this group and lots of people who can answer questions. So that's a really great way if you are interested in getting questions answered, because we can answer, but so can our partners. And Michelle, if you want to go on to the next slide, you can see the list of all of the partners that work within CPS. And I know that there's been some questions about how you can join. So I believe it's listed on our website. Is that true?
I'm working on it, Julie. I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, Meredith's going to post it in the chat, so you can get added to that very easily, and we can move forward from there.
Do I need to verbally answer that other question from Mendez? I'll just go ahead and answer it. So the question is, does this mean if we are to add any beds, we need to notify CPS first, or just for larger garden construction? It is both and. And so any expansion to your garden, including additions of garden beds, any structures, I'm trying to think of anything else that I have come across, pathways, oh gosh, anything. It's just better to be safe than sorry. We do not want to create a path to slow you down. We just want to make sure that everything is done within CPS compliance. And sometimes you don't always know what they are, and they're always changing. So yeah, if it's just be a quick email with the design, and we can set up a quick conversation. Usually those things can be resolved within a couple of days or so. Does that answer your question? Great, awesome. So I look forward to hearing from you then.
All right, next slide, please. So these are a number of the partners who are working with different schools in the district. So one of the nice things is that many of these folks are on our cohort group. So if they are not working directly with your school, we can still, they still will often generously express some of their expertise by answering questions. So please know that when you're asking questions of the Google group, like there's a lot of really experienced and knowledgeable people out there who can answer some of them. So, okay. So the next thing I'm going to try to do is set up, I have a couple polls just to kind of see who's here today. So I am going to launch one of those. And hopefully you can see the first one. Just letting us know if you are a teacher, a school staff, a partner, or a community member. And I'll give people just like 5 or 10 more seconds to answer. This is how I'm checking to make sure you're paying attention. So it looks like we have mostly teachers who are here. So that's nice to know. It looks like maybe some people, they're putting it in the chat. So perhaps some people are not seeing it. And some people are. So can somebody, maybe Michelle or Dr. Meredith, do you all see the poll? Or do people have to go into it? So there's an activity. Here, Mark raised his hand. Maybe he's going to help us. Oh, hold on. I wonder if I have to take him off mute.
I'm sorry. You need to go down to the bottom right corner. There's a triangle, square, and circle. You click on that, and that'll bring you to the polls.
Exactly. Thank you. I thought maybe everybody saw it right away, but you didn't. So yeah, so that little icon in the bottom right, there's like, it's like a triangle, square, circle. So if you can go there, then you'll see the poll. Okay, so now we've got more people. So we've got 12 teachers, 4 school staff, 1 partner, and a community member on here.
So what are you? I'll put it in for you.
What's that?
Lisa's on her phone, so she can't do it, but I'll put her in there.
Okay,
She's
great.
a teacher.
Perfect. Okay, then my next question is, and I'm launching this one now, what type of gardener do you claim to be? Are you a beginner? Are you a novice? Or are you an expert? Michelle gets to decide on Lisa too.
Me and Lisa are experts. I've already answered for us.
Okay, good.
Oh, wait, she's a beginner. I'll switch it. Okay, great. I changed. All right, so it looks like pretty mixed between beginner and novice, but a handful of experts. So the 4 experts on the call, I would love it if you will help me out. Let's see, my next one can be, I just want to know about your school.
So is it a K5, a K8, a 6-8, a 9-12, or something that I did not list?
Lisa.
Okay, so we've got 6 K8 buildings, 3 high schools, and some others. So that, we pre-K8.
You forgot 7 to 12.
7 to 12.
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
academic centers.
That's true. Absolutely. Okay.
Throw
I'll
that
add
in
that.
others, Susan, and we'll make note of that.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. Okay, and my last question is, this is the Rate Your Garden. And you can be totally honest here. We want to remind people that this is absolutely a no judgment zone. And one of the reasons we love it when people come to training is if they're learning a little bit more so that we can start bumping the rebuildings up to the doing fines. Right? Or if you're in a school where your garden's been totally abandoned and maybe you're either a new staff or you're somebody who through the pandemic decided that you were going to start growing your own vegetables, but you didn't have a lot of guidance, like now we can kind of enfold you here and help giving a little bit more support. So all right, so we've got a good blend. We for sure have one that's thriving, so that's exciting. And then mostly some doing fines or some rebuildings. So we can go on to the next slide. I think it's helpful for me to see that we've got a wide variety of folks who are here in a wide variety of buildings. I think we'll present a bit of information today that hopefully can help you all plan ahead and get to the next level. So really, like, one of the reasons that we're doing this today is obviously the winter is coming. It still feels beautiful outside, but we're starting to feel that kind of a little bit of the nip in the air at night. I'm worried the bottom's going to drop out and it's suddenly going to be very cold. So we want to get ahead of this. But we want to think about like a couple reasons why you would put your vegetable garden to bed versus just like leaving it be. And so there's a handful of reasons for this. So one is you've put some work into this garden. So we definitely want you to be at the place where you can harvest, eat, and use everything possible out of your garden. That's really the exciting part. And for some of us, sometimes it's like the actual gardening work is the exciting part, and we forget to do the harvesting and eating. So the kids really love the harvesting and eating. So we want to make sure that happens. The second one is really to be thinking ahead for next year. This is a time to be thinking about how to reduce your weed pressure, to prevent some disease and some diseases and some pests. And there's ways to do that now. And then the last one is just to improve, protect, and feed your soil. So the practice in which you put your garden to bed or winterize your garden really can help do that as well. So we can go on to the next slide. So here are the steps that we are advising you to take. So step number 1 is harvesting. Step number 2 is removing the plant material and I'll go into detail about this because we remove the things that we don't want around, but we're going to feed again with some of the good plant material that has been growing in our garden, and then we're going to cover it back up. So we have a couple different things that were pictured in the previous slide, but we'll go over that kind of as our last step. So Next, we want to talk about harvesting. So before you get to your harvest plan, you want to think about what you want to do with the harvest. So there's so many wonderful things that you can do. Do you want to send it home with kids? Do you want to harvest and have it used in the cafeteria? Do you want to harvest it and do a tasting in your class? Do you want to do some cooking in your class? There's so many really fun things that you can do, and you really want to take advantage of it at this point. So make a plan about what you want to do, maybe involve students in that. And then you need to really think about what supplies you need. So this is where you can go back and do your Eat What You Grow review, and even do the training again, just to think about how you're going to do that with kids. So we want you to be using clean harvesting buckets or food safe bags to go out and harvest with. Make sure that your kids are washing their hands before they go out. Using like single-use gloves is a really great thing. After they've washed their hands, they go out to the garden. If they're going to harvest, they can use those gloves. Please make sure a sick kid is not out harvesting vegetables with you. So those are some of these good agricultural practices that you can take. So remember that if you're going to be using it in the cafeteria or in your classroom, you take all the harvested produce to your kitchen where they wash it for you. And your kitchen staff can use that and prepare it and serve it in the cafeteria, or you can take it to your classroom to do different things with it there. If you want to send it home, you can do that. The recommendation, you should not be washing the produce, but you can send a note home that says, hey, we harvested food today. This is what we harvested. Please wash before you eat. So enjoy it and have a really great time having some sort of harvest celebration. Next slide, please. The other thing is harvest your seeds. So there's a lot of seeds that you'll see in your gardens. I'm curious if you can tell what seed we're showing here, because there's a lot of different seeds that you can simply eat, and you can enjoy that part of agricultural practice. So this was a cilantro plant. Cilantro plants, when they go to seed, it is coriander seed, which is delicious. It tastes a little lemony. The kids will probably really love to taste it. So that's a great one to harvest and eat. It also can be saved to be planted next year. Another fun one, if you grew mustard greens, those seeds can be harvested. You can even grind them into mustard. And then there's plenty of seeds that can also be used again. So bean seeds, I took a little bean that's nice and dry, but this is one where you can break it open and there's a seed inside that if you want to save, you can save that and plant again. You just really want to be saving seeds that are not hybrids, which if you saved your packets, you can take a look and see which ones are not hybrid. But beans are really good ones to do. If you did calendula flowers, those come back. There are and if you want to even put in the chat different seeds that you have saved before that you've planted again, all of those suggestions would be really helpful. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. And just to see, this is how I generally do the seed saving. So the supplies that you need are just paper bags. You can do lunch bags. If you've got a ton of seeds, you can do shopping bags, the paper bags, a Sharpie, and then a binder clip or a stapler. So really just popping stuff right into these bags helps to keep them breathing a little bit and drying out even more if they need to be dried out. Just remember to label them. And I, of course, forgot the date, so please remember the date. You can pop these things into the freezer or refrigerator if you want to save them through the winter. That's where I like to save them. If you save them somewhere else, just make sure it is very dry and that it is like in a rodent-proof container would also be helpful. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. Okay, next up in your garden is that, so if you've removed all of the edible seeds or plantable seeds that you want, we want to make sure that you're removing and disposing of all future weeds. So part of this means removing any plant that has a lot of seeds in it. If you look at this grass, there are like hundreds of seeds in this grass. We want to get those out so that they do not drop in your soil and create more weeds. You want to also, and that goes for, right, like the definition of a weed is anything that's growing where you don't want it to be. So that includes, like, if you don't want like coriander or cilantro growing all over your garden, that all needs to come out as well. Anything with a taproot, so like a dandelion, you want to uproot that. Anything with underground stems, so if you have a lot of bindweed in your garden, you should try to get as much of that out at this point as you can. If you have mint like growing somewhere where you don't want to, try to get it out. Disposal suggestions for weeds. So, oh, and let me say this first. So part of it's like, if you're in doubt about if you should take it out, just take it out. And then Michelle, if you can go to the next slide, and that will answer that question. So, so if you have something with tons of seeds on it, so this is me taking that, the grass out that had all the seeds, don't uproot it and shake out all of the soil to keep the soil, because then you're going to shake all the seeds all over the soil surface. So I gently like clip the bottom, pull that out. If you have a tarp laying at your feet, you can drop it in a tarp, you can drop it in a garbage bag. But that's how I would recommend doing those kind of weedy seeds. Don't put that stuff in your compost, because if your compost is not hot enough, it's not going to kill those seeds. So we're just going to throw them away. So garbage bags or tarps are helpful. So snips, pruners, loppers, scissors, any sort of cutting materials. Some things you need loppers for, like even those if you grow Swiss chard, like sometimes you need a loppers to get those out of your garden or clipped down. So can we go on to the next slide? Okay, so we also want to remove all diseased plants and plants that are susceptible to diseases and pests. Again, remove anything that looks like it's diseased. You can uproot any tomatoes or plants in the cucumber family. Both of those are really susceptible to things that can be contained in their roots or in the soil or in the leaves. So we want to take those out. And you're going to put that in a garbage bag or on your tarp to get rid of as well. Any pests that have infested, that like pests that pupate, so they're going to turn into a pupa and go underground. You want to get rid of those as well. Dr. Meredith reminded me we might be a little late on that because maybe they're already down there. But if you have a feeling that, like, again, this when in doubt, take it out, go ahead and take those things all the way out of your garden if you're concerned about it. Okay, next slide, please.
Oh, and I'll just say, like, aphids don't fall into that category. So that's like butterflies, flies, beetles. Probably the most common ones.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julie.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and you, of course, can use like the paper waste bags as well, because we do definitely want to not use as much plastic as we often do. And I mean, with a tarp, if you want to do it on a tarp, you put it all on a tarp, you fold it up, and then you can open that up into the dumpster so that you're reusing that tarp. So that's one way that you can reduce.
I just want to reiterate, I put it in the chat, but I want to say it verbally. Please do not use controlled burns for weed mitigation. That is not allowed on CPS property. So we can't even hire someone to do a controlled burn without very specific approval. So if you're having a huge weed problem, contact us. We do have other ways like steel seabed additions and things like that where you can get rid of weed. That was my Elmer Fudd impression. Get rid of weeds safely over time. Also, if you do use the lawn bags, unfortunately, CPS does not have a service that will pick that up and dispose of it outside of that. So it will still go into the landfill. It'll just decompose there. Unless your school, and not all of our schools, but some of our schools do have composting services. If your school is one of those that does have a compost pickup, please utilize that service for that.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Okay, Susan, if you want to come off mute, you can go ahead and ask your question.
I just hate sending all this organic matter to the landfill because of the climate impacts. Is there any reason why I can't take my lawn bag back to my own alleyway and just pop it out? Am I violating compliance somewhere?
No, that was going to be a suggestion, but
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
you can, if you are putting it in lawn bags, which you're probably purchasing yourself, then yes, you can do that and then call 311 for a special pickup.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, Elizabeth, another question.
I'm sorry. Yes. I was wondering if we can get more information about setting up compost in our schools. Is it just basically hiring like the same kind of compost companies that we get for our private homes? Or is there something specific the CPS will do?
Can you, do you want me to answer?
Go ahead, go for it.
I was just going to ask you to send us an email, or we can answer that a little bit more in the cohort. I'm just checking the time and now feeling like I need to hurry through this a little bit, but we do have some suggestions.
Yeah, we'll put it in the cohort to answer it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, if we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so the next move, so once everything that is potential to reseed or bring more like plant disease or have more pests, once everything is taken out, then we have more steps to recommend. So now we're talking about feeding. So you can either feed with compost, or I would say you can feed with compost and let the garden make some for you. So you, again, are going to want your snips, pruners, loppers, scissors, anything that can cut down plant material. And you're going to chop plants down right at the soil level, and then you're going to set them right next to you, but outside of the garden bed, because we're going to use them again in a minute. So by keeping the roots in the garden bed, that's going to do a couple of things. So one is, in the shorter term, it's going to hold the soil down. And if any of you have purchased soil recently, it's one of the biggest costs associated with raised bed gardens. So we do not want you to lose any soil. And in our Chicago winters, it can get very, very windy. So some of your soil will blow just right out of your garden beds. So keeping those roots in will hold the soil down. It also, as the roots decompose, water will trickle down in those same pathways and be able to open your soil up a little bit better with freeze thaw and just generally help aerate things a little bit better. So once everything is cleared, and you also, like with your herbs or anything that's going to continue to grow next year, I would just cut those back, like keep 3 to 5 inches and give everything a really good haircut. That stuff, like the thyme you can see in the corners of this picture, I gave those a haircut, and I set that, you can't see it, but it's out of the picture. I set like a nice big pile of that down on the ground next to me. If you happen to have a budget for bag compost, this is a wonderful time to add that compost. So you can add 2 inches just on the soil surface and leave it. You don't even need to work it in. So if you've got the funds, please go ahead and add compost at this point. If you don't, that's okay. This is where you get to have a little fun and have a leaf party. Obviously make sure that there is like no hazards like around the leaves or under the leaves. But this is a fun one where you can involve your students too. Once the leaves are dropping, go and grab as many of them as you possibly can. And you want to pile them on top of your garden bed. So you want at least 3 inches. This is a form of like passive composting. So you need a certain amount of mass in order to make the compost warm up and be super effective. So lots of leaves are a really great thing. And then we can go on to the next slide. So, and in that picture, we still didn't have very many leaves, but you can at least see some. So then what I did here was I took all of the cuttings from like the thyme that was growing in those corners, like it was growing so beautifully, and I cut it all down, and then I'm piling it right on top of the leaves. So this way, and I'm doing it in huge chunks, like I'm not dicing it up like a lot of times you would do in a compost pile. It's just like big chunky pieces, and they're laying down on top of the leaves. This is going to weigh the leaves down and help them not blow out. At this point, you can water everything down really well, just to make it even more heavy. And then the decomposition process is going to start. So if this is this is a great thing you can do with no supplies. If you, and Michelle, you can go to the next slide. If you do have some additional funding, you can go ahead and buy some burlap. I think this looks really nice because your garden looks very cared for and tucked in since it's in a public space. When people look at your garden, they can tell that you have been actively working with your garden. So, and actually, if you flip to the next slide, then you can at least see a picture of what the landscape staples look like. So these are supplies that you can use. So the landscape pins or sod staples are in the bottom right-hand corner. So you can unroll the burlap and then just pin those down. And big box stores sell just rolls of burlap. We ask that you don't use anything reclaimed because we don't know what the source is or how those things have been handled, and we want to make sure that they're free of contaminants. But that is a way that you can really like keep all that organic matter and all the soil in and make it a really good environment for all of the like decomposition and insects and decomposers and everything to have they're really going to have a heyday there throughout the winter, because with the freeze thaw, with the rain, with the snow, what you will see is when you take the burlap off, chances are you will find almost nothing underneath there. So sometimes if you dropped an entire kale plant, sometimes that stem will be left behind, but you will definitely have a very rich crumbly soil underneath. And if there are things that are left behind in the spring, you can just pull it away and be pretty close to ready to start your garden. The weeds will be less, and things should be it should just be an easier start. So the last piece of that is I did show a piece of plastic on there. So if there were a couple people who are totally rehabilitating a garden, this is a good thing. If things feel just so crazy weedy that there's probably tons of weed seeds in your garden, one way to attack that is to solarize it. So either with clear plastic or with black plastic, even garbage bags and some of those landscape pins, you can go through and just black or clear plastic everything off and pin it down for the winter. And the hope is that all of the weed seeds will really get cooked and some of the insects too, so that you can start a little bit fresher in the spring. Okay, so that is the meat of the presentation, and now we can handle some of your questions. So I know that there have been some things in the chat. Dr. Meredith was going to monitor the chat. So maybe she can start with some of those, and then folks can come off mute too, and we can talk things through in our final, well, we should probably do it in about 5 or 6 minutes.
I would say both Michelle and I have been answering questions in the chat as they've been coming up. So like we had some questions about compost and like getting soil and mulch. It's a very common question we have. If we have soil donations that we hear about, we will send it out in the educator cohort. We don't recommend using wood mulch in your garden beds because it will bind up a lot of the nitrogen in the soil. It takes a really long time to decompose. So wood mulch or wood chips are much like for limited use. They're good for pathways, but it also facilities has asked us not to use them unless, not to use them because they will clog up storm drains.
I'm going to put back on that here before we continue. So if you already, so this is a instance where it's a grandfathered situation. If you've already been grandfathered in and you have mulch paths at your school, then you are allowed to maintain that mulch. You cannot use mulch in your beds, and CPS has actually decreased the use of mulch, period. So we are not mulching around trees. We are not mulching in native areas. With wood mulch, it's only natural mulch at this point because mulch has been proven to clog our storm drain systems, and that does not decompose fast, as Dr. Meredith said. But for those of you who already have mulch in pathways only, you can continue to do that with a untreated wood mulch or leaf mulch. No, I don't want to see red mulch or black mulch or any other colors because that is a chemical used to make that color in that mulch. And if we do see it and it's freshly applied, we will ask you to remove it. We have asked schools to remove it. So don't worry. You're not the only one that has to have had to remove mulch, and it's really hard to do. When in doubt, shout the question out because we don't want you to have to waste that time or money. So that was that. Continue, Dr. Merritt.
Yeah. Okay, so if you want to join the Google group, let's see, I dropped a link to it earlier in the chat, and I will pin that for folks who are at this meeting. So it's now pinned. If you're not a member of the Google group, but you would like to join, that is now a pinned message. Let's see. If you are planting.
I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in real quick. I want to answer the question from Mark about composting. Oh, sure. Yeah. So composting is allowed on CPS property. We have had to make we are going to create a compost guide. So that is something that's in the pipeline. We had to get the chicken coop one and the chicken handling guide done first. But so just to let you know, composting is allowed. If your school already has a 3-bin compost that is in good condition, you can continue to use your 3-bin compost. If we find, and we are mapping out our schools, so we are visiting all schools. So if we do come to find that you have a 3-bin compost that is not in good condition, you will be required to remove it from the campus. And we are transitioning into spin bin compost bins used for composting. Noting that those of you who are composting, that compost cannot be used in raised beds that you are planning to grow food in. They are only allowed to be used for ornamental, native, and landscape spaces. So yes, please compost. And if you also have if one of your schools is one of the schools that's doing the composting in the cafeteria and you're sending your kitchen scraps or school food scraps from your cafeteria out of the building, that is through 7 Generations Ahead. That is a program that is happening at several schools, not every school. And if your school does have composting pickup, then please continue to utilize that. But if you are, I want to reiterate, spin bin compost bins only. If you have a 3-bin in good shape, continue to use it, that will be grandfathered in. If it is found to be in bad shape, we will have to remove it, or don't wait for us to find it, just remove it, so that we don't have those issues. And then please do not use that generated compost in your edible raised bed.
And then I'm going to cut off questions temporarily for now, just as a way to respect everybody's time. And then we can go on to the last slide. And I can stick around for a couple minutes afterwards if anybody has further questions. But just wanted to highlight that we're going to be doing these meetings monthly. So they'll be the second Wednesday of every month. So the 13th of November is the next meeting. We do have there's an empty Google Doc. So if there are topics that you'd like to hear about, you can go ahead and fill out that Google Doc. Maybe Meredith, I don't know if you probably can't link to it from the thingamajiggy from the presentation. So if Dr. Meredith, if you can put that in the chat, that would be great. Michelle already did it. Thank you. You can put any suggestions that you have there that you'd like to hear about, or just any suggestions at all. And then we ask that you all contribute to the Google group. So if there's things that from this meeting that you have questions about, or just something that was sparked, you can send that to the Google group and folks will be able to answer questions there. So it is 5 o'clock on the nose. So we are officially done with our meeting. So thank you everybody for coming. And if I'll stay on for a couple minutes, if anybody wants to stay on and ask questions, they are more than welcome to do that. But we really appreciate you coming, and thanks for your time, and thanks for making your gardens great, and for really serving kids in that way. We know that is going to go with them for their lifetime. So you're doing really great work.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So I had a question because this year, like, my parents at my school have really taken over the garden, which I'm so grateful, because as a teacher it gets hard to do everything and they are better at it than I am. So I just wanted to be sure if it was okay, and I think you did answer that I could share, like, for the leader to join in, but could the other, like, 2-3 others join in? Because I just feel like in keeping time like to relay some of this information that's really pertinent for them who are doing really most of the work now, all of it, honestly. I just go out there and give praise now, which is, I think, wonderful.
Yeah.
So they can join. Is that okay then?
Yep, that's totally fine. And we set it up as a Google group that is so that it can be open to people outside of the CPS network. So yes, they can absolutely join, and we'll share out this presentation so that you can share it with them. Like, we'll share the slides, and then I think we can share the recording as well.
And do you guys have, now not to overrest, but do you guys have materials like in Spanish by any chance too that I could share out with them? Or is that in the works or something?
We have some materials in Spanish, but we don't have a ton of them. So
that's all right. I can always offer to support them with that. But yeah, thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
I mean, if you will offer to support, we would love.
Well, with them, I don't know.
Right.
I'm trying to get myself out of some of this. But okay, thank you so much. Thanks for the support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, Jenny Crawl.
Hi. I'm in my second year at Burley Elementary School. So the previous principal was a part of this cohort, and she forwarded this to me. So I don't know if I'm still, like, I just joined the group because I got the link, so I'm good there. But I'm just curious if Burley is listed as one of your schools for gardening. And Michelle, I think I sent you an email last year because we were having some activity with some unwelcome friends, and they were going all through our container gardens. And Landmark, is that the pest service that CPS uses? They went ahead and put poison in our beds, our raised beds. So we had to have all the soil removed because obviously those were our vegetable gardens. So now I have empty containers, which I'm excited about until I heard you say there's no more soil.
So I am confused because they should have replaced that soil.
They did not.
Okay. Send me an email directly to me, reminding me of the instance. If you do have that email thread, send me that email thread because I was just trying to look through my email to find it. Facilities is supposed to cover the replacement of that soil. So if that hasn't happened, we will make sure that happens.